walked into my living room and found my husband with my son's fiancée, tangled in an embrace just hours before the wedding. My heart stopped, but before I could scream, a shadow in the doorway froze me, my son Caleb, his eyes hollow with a truth too heavy to bear. "Mom," he whispered, "I've known for months, and it's worse than you think. If you've ever felt your world shatter, if you've carried a secret that burned you alive, please subscribe to the channel and stay with me for this story. Your support means everything, and I'm not alone when you're here. My name is Laura, and this is the story of how my life unraveled on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my son's life." It was June 12th, 2024, the morning of Caleb's wedding, and I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in our Charlotte, North Carolina home. Sleep had been impossible. I told myself it was just nerves, a mother's worry about her only child's big day. I sat in my cozy home office, the one I'd turned into a haven for my freelance graphic design business. The glow of my computer screen lit up mock-ups for a client's logo, but my mind was elsewhere. In a few hours, our backyard would transform into a wedding venue. With fairy lights strung across the pergola, I'd spent months decorating with climbing jasmine. I checked every detail: the caterer's menu, the florist's delivery, the playlist Caleb and his fiancée, Rachel, had chosen. Everything had to be perfect for my boy. For 27 years, I'd been married to Nathan, my high school sweetheart. We'd built a life together, raising Caleb, now 24, into a man I was fiercely proud of. I was the planner, the one who balanced budgets, scheduled family vacations, and made sure Nathan's dental practice ran smoothly behind the scenes. Nathan was the charismatic one, the man who could light up a room with a smile and a story. Everyone loved him: patients, neighbors, even the barista at our local coffee shop. But lately, there'd been a distance between us, a quiet chill I couldn't name. His phone was always face down, his evenings filled with urgent patient calls that lasted too long. When I asked, he'd flash that grin and say, "Just work, Laura, you know how it is." I wanted to believe him. What else do you do after 27 years? That morning, Caleb came into my office, still in his flannel pajamas, holding a mug of black coffee. His face was drawn, shadows under his eyes. "Mom, you're up too early," he said, his voice heavy. "The wedding's not till 3, cake." "I just want it perfect for you," I replied, forcing a smile as I closed my laptop. "Where's your dad?" "He left early," Caleb said, his tone odd, clipped. He sat on the edge of my desk, looking younger than his years. "Said he was grabbing something for Rachel's parents." I nodded, but something in his expression stopped me cold. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" He stared into his coffee, then met my eyes. "Do you think Rachel really loves me?" The question hit like a slap. Rachel was stunning, a rising star in real estate, from a prominent family in Raleigh. She was polished, ambitious, everything we'd hoped for Caleb. But I'd noticed things. How she'd interrupt him when he talked about his teaching job, how her smile never reached her eyes at family dinners. "Why would you ask that?" I said, my voice tight. "It's just, she's been spending a lot of time with Dad," he said, his voice breaking. "They're always talking about investments, property deals. She says he's helping her career." I felt a flush creep up my neck. I'd seen it too. Nathan's lingering glances, how he'd jumped to open doors for her, how he knew she liked her latte with oat milk and a dash of vanilla. "Wedding jitters are normal," I said, squeezing his hand, but my words felt hollow. "It's not jitters, Mom," Caleb said, his eyes glistening. "I think she's in love with someone else." The air left the room. "What makes you say that?" "Little things," he whispered. "The way she laughs when Dad's around, how she texts him late at night. I saw them at the country club last week, just the two of them laughing like they were on a date." I wanted to scream that he was wrong, but the truth was clawing at me. I'd ignored the signs, Nathan's late nights, the way Rachel's name came up too often in his stories. Before I could respond, Nathan walked in, dressed in a crisp button-down, his smile too bright. "My favorite people," he said, clapping Caleb on the shoulder. "Big day, son. You ready?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Yeah, Dad. Ready." "Laura, you're going to wear yourself out," Nathan said, turning to me. "Rachel's coming by at 11:04 to go over some last-minute details. Guest list stuff." "What details?" Caleb asked, his voice flat. "Oh, just making sure her uncle doesn't sit near your cousin Mike after their golf course argument," Nathan said with a chuckle. "You know how her family is. Gotta keep the peace." Caleb nodded, but his eyes were cold. "Right. Can't have the wrong people too close." The tension was suffocating. I watched Nathan leave, his confidence unshaken, and I knew Caleb was right. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I canceled a client call scheduled for 11:30, claiming a family emergency. It wasn't a lie. I couldn't shake Caleb's words or the image of Nathan's hand brushing Rachel's arm at last month's rehearsal dinner. I needed to know. I spent the next hour pacing the kitchen, rearranging vases of peonies that didn't need rearranging. Every creak of the house made my heart race. At exactly 11 poist, Rachel's silver Audi pulled into the driveway. She stepped out, flawless in a tailored blazer and jeans, her confidence unshakable. My pulse thundered as I slipped out the back door and crept around to the living room windows, hiding behind the azalea bushes I'd planted 3 springs ago. Through the glass, I saw them. Nathan and Rachel stood by the fireplace, where we'd hung Caleb's stockings every Christmas. Nathan handed her a glass of wine at 11 a.m. They were close, too close, his hand grazing her waist. I couldn't hear their words, but their laughter cut through me like a knife. My nails dug into my palms as I watched, my life crumbling in real time. I was ready to storm in, to scream, to tear them apart. But then I saw Caleb in the upstairs window, his silhouette still, watching them too. His pain stopped me cold. This wasn't just my betrayal, it was his. Downstairs, Rachel's hand rested on Nathan's chest, her smile intimate, knowing. They leaned closer, and then they were kissing, a deep, reckless kiss that shattered everything I'd believed in. I took a step toward the door, rage blinding me, but Caleb's hand grabbed my arm. He'd slipped outside, his face pale but resolute. "Mom, don't," he whispered. "Not yet. Caleb, how can we—" "I've known for weeks," he said, his voice low, trembling. "I have proof." "Proof?" I stared at him, my son, who suddenly looked like a stranger. "What did you do?" He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. "I hired a private investigator. Look." The first photo showed Nathan and Rachel entering the Westin Charlotte on May 3rd, 2024, at 2:15 p.m., when Nathan was supposedly at a dental conference. The next showed them leaving, her hair mussed, his tie loose. There were dozens more. Dinners at upscale restaurants, a late-night walk in Freedom Park, their hands entwined. 15 occasions, Caleb said, his voice hollow. 15 times they lied to us. I felt sick, the weight of their deceit crushing me. "We're stopping this now," I said, my voice sharp. "No," Caleb said, his eyes glinting with something fierce. "We do this my way, publicly. They don't get to lie their way out." His plan was ruthless, brilliant. We'd let the wedding proceed, let them think they'd won. Then at the perfect moment, we'd expose them in front of everyone. Family, friends, Rachel's influential parents. No denials, no escape. I looked at my son, the boy who'd inherited my heart and Nathan's charm, and saw a man forged in pain. "Tell me what to do," I said. That afternoon I played my part. I smiled at Nathan as he raved about the caterer's menu, pretending I didn't want to scream. I adjusted Rachel's veil during a photo session, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. Caleb was a mirror of my restraint, laughing with his groomsmen, his eyes meeting mine in silent agreement. We were a team, bound by betrayal. By 15% into the day, I had my own small victory. I'd found a receipt in Nathan's office drawer, $12,750 for a diamond bracelet from Tiffany's, dated April 10th, 2024. It wasn't for me. I slipped it into my purse, a tangible piece of their lies. It felt like a tiny reclaiming of power, a clue I could wield later. At 3 p.m., the ceremony began. The backyard was a vision, jasmine blooming, fairy lights glowing, 250 guests seated in white chairs. Nathan sat beside me, his hand warm in mine, oblivious to the storm coming. Rachel glided down the aisle, her gown shimmering, her smile radiant. She looked at Nathan, a fleeting glance that burned with secrets. Caleb stood at the altar, his face unreadable, but when his eyes met mine, he nodded. It was time. The officiant's voice droned on about love and commitment, each word a mockery. Then came the moment. If anyone has a reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. I stood, my heart pounding. The crowd gasped, chairs creaking as heads turned. Nathan's grip tightened. "Laura, sit down," he hissed. "You're embarrassing us." I pulled my hand free. "No, Nathan. You've embarrassed us enough." I faced the crowd, my voice steady. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have a reason this marriage cannot proceed. Rachel and my husband have been having an affair." The silence was deafening. Rachel's father, a prominent attorney, stood, his face red. "This is outrageous, Laura, is it?" I said, pulling a remote from my clutch. My sister, Karen, a former cop turned PI, had set up a projector disguised as a slideshow display. I pressed the button. The screen lit up with a photo of Nathan and Rachel kissing in our living room, time-stamped yesterday. Gasps erupted. Rachel's mother clutched her pearls, her face pale. "That's not all," I said, as the screen cycled through images. Hotel lobbies, candlelit dinners, the bracelet receipt. For months they've lied to us, betrayed us. Nathan stood, shouting, "This is fake! Laura's lost it. Am I?" I said, my voice cold. The screen shifted to bank statements, $45,000 in withdrawals from our joint savings, funneled to cash payments for hotel rooms and gifts. "You've been stealing from our future, Nathan," Rachel's voice cracked. "You're ruining everything." She screamed, but her words drowned in the crowd's murmurs. Caleb stepped forward, his voice cutting through. "And you, Rachel, you're not innocent." The screen showed financial records, fake invoices from her real estate firm, $180,000 siphoned to a personal account. Her colleagues in the crowd gasped, their faces hardening. Then came the final blow. "But the worst," I said, my voice trembling, "is what Nathan's hidden for 17 years. The screen displayed a DNA report dated June 10th, 2024, showing a 99.9999% probability that Nathan was the father of a 17-year-old girl named Emily Carter. A photo of her appeared, Nathan's eyes, his smile. He's kept a daughter secret from us, from Caleb, for her entire life. The crowd was silent, stunned. Rachel collapsed, sobbing into her gown. Nathan's face drained of color. He bolted, shoving through guests, but Karen was ready. She tripped him near the pergola, his suit stained with grass. "Not so fast, Nathan," she said, her voice calm but lethal. Two police officers approached Rachel. "Rachel Thompson, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud," one said, cuffing her as she wailed. The clicks of the handcuffs echoed in the stunned silence. As they led her away, the crowd dissolved into chaos, phones recording, guests whispering, Rachel's parents frozen in shame. Caleb wrapped an arm around me. "It's over, Mom," he whispered. "We did it. The hours after were a whirlwind. Police took statements, guests scattered, and Nathan vanished into the night. I felt hollow but free, like I'd shed a skin that no longer fit. The weeks that followed were brutal. The story hit local news. Headlines screamed of scandal and betrayal. My business took a hit. Clients shied away from the drama, but I fought back, rebuilding one project at a time. I filed for divorce on June 14, 2024, armed with Karen's evidence. Nathan didn't contest it. I kept the house and half his assets, a small justice for the $45,000 he'd stolen. Rachel pleaded guilty, sentenced to 18 months for embezzlement. Her family's reputation crumbled. Nathan lost his practice, his charm useless against the truth. He moved to a dingy apartment, a shadow of the man he'd been. Then there was Emily. A letter arrived from her mother, Sarah Carter, on June 20th, 2024. She apologized, explaining Emily had seen the news and wanted to meet us. I agonized for days. She was Nathan's betrayal, but also a girl, innocent, caught in his lies. Caleb insisted. "She's my sister, Mom. She deserves to know us." We met at a quiet diner on July 1st, 2024. Emily walked in, clutching a sketchbook, her dark eyes unmistakably Nathan's. She was shy, nervous, but kind. Caleb broke the ice, asking about her art, her dreams. I watched, my heart softening. She wasn't the enemy. She was just Emily. Over the next year, we rebuilt. I sold the house, its memories too heavy, and bought a sunny condo. Caleb left teaching to pursue urban planning, his passion for creating beauty from chaos, a mirror of his healing. He met a nurse, Mia, whose quiet strength grounded him. Emily became a regular at our dinners, her laughter blending with Caleb's in a way that felt like family. Not the one I'd lost, but one we'd chosen. One night, Nathan appeared at my door, looking broken. He was in therapy, he said, trying to understand his lies. "I'm sorry, Laura," he whispered, "for everything." "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it, not for him, but for me. "But we're done." He nodded and left, a ghost from a life I no longer lived. As I stood in my new condo, the jasmine I'd planted in pots on the balcony filled the air with sweetness. I thought of the woman I was, hiding behind azaleas, broken and afraid. I wished I could tell her she'd survive, that she'd find strength in the wreckage. My family wasn't what I'd planned, but it was real, built on truth and love, not lies. Thank you for hearing my story. If it moved you, if you've ever faced betrayal or found strength in ruins, please share your thoughts in the comments. Your stories matter, and if you want to hear more like mine, subscribe to the channel. I'd love for you to stay with me on this journey. Sometimes the end is just the beginning.